Alright guys, today we are reviewing solving systems of linear equations, and we're reviewing using substitution. So we need to start these problems using previous knowledge, okay? Okay, so in order to solve a system by substitution, we need a letter by itself. The letter that you should pick to have by itself is a letter that's almost already alone. So, for example, on number 3, the top equation has a 2 and a 2 and a 10, and you could divide everything by 2, but in the bottom equation, this y is pretty much by itself already. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this y totally by itself. So I'm going to add 6x to each side. So now we have y equals negative 10 plus 6x. Okay, so I know what my y value is for the bottom equation, so I'm going to substitute my y into the top equation, or the opposite equation. So we write the top equation as we read it, negative 2x plus 2, but instead of writing y, we substitute our value for y, negative 10 plus 6x, and then we finish off the equation, which is negative 10. Okay, solve for x. So we need to start by distributing the 2. We have negative 2x plus negative 20, and then 12x equals negative 10. I have negative 2x and 12x, so that's 10x's, minus 20 equals negative 10. Now add 20 to both sides, 10x equals 10. Divide each side by 10, and x is 1. So remember, with substitution, and elimination and by graphing, we're trying to figure out where these two lines intersect. So I have my x value, which is 1, and we got to figure out our y value. So we write them as an ordered pair. Okay, and in order to do that, I'm going to take my value for x and I'm going to plug it in to my other equation where I know y is pretty much by itself because I'm trying to figure out what y is. It honestly doesn't matter which equation you plug this into. You just need to plug your x into one of them. So we have y equals negative 10 plus 6 times 1, because my x value is 1. So y equals negative 10 plus 6. So y is negative 4. So my answer is 1, negative 4. So that's the solution to this system of equations. Okay, so let's do another one just to make sure we've got this. Let's do number 5. On number 5, we are going to solve for a letter to start. So this is a negative x, which we could solve for, but then we'll end up with like a negative, then we have to divide by negatives. But this cute little positive y is pretty much by himself. So I'm going to solve for him. So I'm going to start by adding x to each side. And now we have y equals negative 3 plus x, which is perfect. So the y is by itself, and this is the value it equals. So in my equation, I'm going to substitute what my y equals for my y. So this is like 5 $1 bills is the same thing as a $5 bill. They look different. So my y and my negative 3 plus x looks different, but they mean the same thing. So I write the bottom equation as is, negative x minus 3, but then I take out my y value and I substitute it for what y equals, which is negative 3 plus x. When you substitute, you need to put it in parentheses, giving your numbers hugs. I love hugs. Okay, and then we have to distribute that cute little negative 3. So negative x plus 9 minus 3x equals negative 15. Negative x minus 3x is negative 4x's plus 9 equals negative 15. Minus 9 on both sides. Negative 4x equals negative 24. Divide by negative 4. And x is 6. So I know my x value, so 6. And then we need to figure out the y value. So I'm just going to take my 6 and plug it into this equation that pretty much has y by itself. Put it there. So negative 3 plus 6 is 3. So y is 3, and this is 6. Okay, this is what we've done before. Okay, this is the idea behind it. Now we are going to take it a step up. So we're going to go to 37. And this is solving systems of equations using substitution, but this time we have some quadratics. Okay. All right, now let's look at number 1. So I already have a letter equaling something, and I have another letter equaling something. It doesn't matter. So my y is equal to x minus 2 on the top equation. So in the bottom equation, I'm going to find y, and I'm going to substitute the value in. It just happens to be on the opposite side. So I have x minus 2 equals x squared minus 2. So I substituted in this guy in here, right there. Okay, now we solve for x. So we got to give everything on the same side. So I'm going to minus x squared, and I'm going to add 2. Minus x squared, add 2. So now I have negative x squared plus x, negative 2 plus 2 is 0, equals 0. So now we have to solve for x. So we have two options here. We can big X, or we could just use the quadratic formula, and I'm going to choose to just use the quadratic formula. So we have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so now we have negative 1 plus or minus. Well, anything times 0 is gone. The square root of negative 1, or the square root of 1 squared is 1, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So we have two answers. We have the positive version, so we have negative 1 plus 1 divided by negative 2, and negative 1 minus 1 divided by negative 2. So this gives me, remember what letter we have, an x value of, well, negative 1 plus 1 is 0, so that would be 0, because 0 divided by 2 is 0. And this, negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. So this time I'm going to have two answers. Okay, so I have my two x values. Then I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to plug it in to this top one. It doesn't matter the top or the bottom. We're going to plug this problem in here and figure out our two y values that go with it. So I'm going to start with this x is 0. So if x is 0, then I have y equals 0 minus 2. So I just took out the x and replaced it with 0. Well, that's negative 2. So if x is 0, y is negative 2. My answer is 0, negative 2. I do the same thing with my other value. If x is 1, then y equals 1 minus 2. So then y is negative 1. So if my x is 1, then my y is negative 1. So these are my two answers. So you should get two answers for each of these. So they're a little bit more complicated when they're not linear, because these are not linear. But this is like the next step up in applying. Okay, so like on number 3, I know that my y is equal to 3x squared. I also know that my x is equal to y squared. So you just have to decide what you want to do. Okay, here are thoughts. If you decide to put your 3x into the y, then you have to decide what is squared and what is not squared, which some of you may be confused on. However, if I put the y squared where the x is, because x equals y squared, well, I know it's just going to sit right next to it. So I'm actually going to choose to substitute my x value. Y squared is going to go right next to my 3. Okay, you could go the other way. I want to go this way. So right now, I really have y equals 3 times y squared. So we have y equals 3y squared, and then we want to get everything on the same side, so minus y. So 0 equals 3y squared minus y plus 0. Again, you can big X, or you just use the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, let's try this. Alright, so on this problem, We have the same idea. Negative 4 times 3 times 0 is going to be gone. So we have 1 plus or minus. Well, negative 1 squared is 1. And the square root of 1 is 1. So here we go. And then 2 times 3 is 6. So we could really break this up into 1 plus 1 over 6 and 1 minus 1 over 6. Okay, so you have to think about what letter we used. We used y. So that means y equals 2 divided by 2 over 6 in fractions. We're going to keep fractions. Reduces to 1/3. And 1 minus 1 is 0 divided by 6 is 0. So we've got our y values now, and we're going to figure out what our x value is. So I'm going to use this equation because it's almost got the x by himself already. So if my y is 1/3, I'm going to plug that in. So then x equals 1/3 squared. Well, 1 squared is 1, and 3 squared is 9. So that would be 1/9, which would give me an answer of 1/3, 1/9. Oh, nope, just kidding, the other way. Because my 1/3 is my y value, my x value is 1/9. So that's my first answer. Then I'm going to plug in y. So if y is 0, then x equals 0 squared, and x equals 0. So my other ordered pair is at 0, 0. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, number 5. So y equals 7. That's nice. We're just going to put that guy there. So you have x squared plus 49, because 7 squared, equals 25 minus 49. So x squared equals negative 24. To get the x squared by itself, well, you could square root, and that would be imaginary. So I'm going to say that this one has no solution. Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. A knock at the door. Alright, so if you would have an imaginary number, that's a no solution, because we can't have no imaginary numbers. We're not going to do imaginary numbers. Okay, so let's do this guy. So on this problem, I have x squared is equal to 4x, so I could divide each side by 4 to get my x by itself. That seems awful. I don't have a y squared, so I don't want to do that. I know this. Let's just take this cute little y and we'll move him to the other side. Okay, so we're going to add y to each side. That way we can get a letter by itself. So then we have x plus 1 equals y. Okay, and now we're going to substitute our x plus 1 into our y. And notice when we do that, we will have to fancy distribute. So we have x plus 1 squared equals 4x. Well, this really means x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals 4x. So I'm going to distribute that guy. So we have x squared plus x, and then distribute that guy, which is x plus 1 equals 4x. Okay, simplify, combine my like terms. Let's move this guy over. Okay, so we have x squared. We got 2x minus 4x is negative 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Again, you can big X this. I'm just going to use the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so we have 2 plus or minus. Well, 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. And the square root of 0 is 0. So 0 over 2. So that really doesn't matter. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my x equals 1. Okay, so we're going to plug this guy back in to figure out what our y is. Oh, let's use this one. So if y equals x plus 1 and x is equal to 1, then y equals 1 plus 1 and y equals 2. So my ordered pair is 1, 2. This time it only touches at one spot, but all of yours for your homework touches at 2. Please keep your answers as fractions and let me know if you need any more help or you get stuck. Bye!